Welcome. Today we're looking at a pretty significant development concerning the planned high-speed rail project down in Texas.
Yes, a major change. The U.S. Department of Transportation just announced they're canceling a federal grant.
And it's not a small amount of money we're talking about here.
No, not at all. It results in savings of over $60 million.
So tell us more about the specifics. Who made this decision?
Well, Transportation Secretary Sean P. Duffy put out a statement. He said the Federal Railroad Administration, that's the FRA, the agency handling rail regulations and grants.
Right.
And Amtrak, which, well, it gets government support but operates a lot of the passenger rail, they both agreed. They're terminating that $63.9 million grant.
Almost $64 million. And this was for the project initially known as Texas Central Railway.
Exactly. It's now being referred to as the Amtrak Texas High-Speed Rail Corridor, but yeah, same project essentially.
Okay, so nearly $64 million pulled back. What's the core reason the DOT gave for this?
The main point, according to Secretary Duffy, is how the project changed over time.
Changed how?
It started out being presented as a fully private venture. No taxpayer money needed.
Okay.
But then the cost estimates started to climb a lot, and the project began looking more towards Amtrak and, well, federal resources to actually get developed.
I see. So it shifted from purely private to needing public backing.
Precisely. That seems to be the heart of the issue, this move away from its original private funding premise.
And Secretary Duffy sounded quite firm on this point about taxpayer money.
Very firm. He stated that putting federal money into it now would be, in his words, a misuse of taxpayer funds.
A misuse. Strong words.
And he stressed it wasn't just his view, but a shared conclusion with the FRA and Amtrak. Their feeling is that funding this project now would pull resources and focus away from Amtrak's main job.
Which is?
Improving its current services, which, let's be honest, face quite a few challenges already.
Right, like delays and reliability issues many people experience.
Exactly. So Duffy's position is pretty clear. If the private sector really thinks this high-speed line can work financially, they should be the ones funding the pre-construction stuff, not taxpayers.
And just to remind ourselves of the scale here, this isn't a minor project. The cost estimates are huge.
Oh, absolutely massive. The latest capital cost estimate from the DOT puts it at over $40 billion.
$40 billion.
Yeah, that kind of number really highlights the challenge. High-speed rail is incredibly expensive infrastructure.
And the DOT sees that $40 billion figure as just too much, too risky for public funds.
That appears to be their assessment, yes. An unrealistic and, frankly, risky investment for taxpayers to take on at this point.
And this decision kind of ties into the broader picture of Amtrak's current situation, too, doesn't it?
It really does. You mentioned earlier, Amtrak is reportedly facing significant operating deficits.
Even though passenger numbers are up post-pandemic?
Right. Even with recovery, the financial picture isn't rosy. Plus, they're dealing with serious operational headaches.
Like what specifically?
Well, the delays everyone hears about, especially in the Northeast Corridor, but also things like having to decommission their entire Horizon car fleet because of corrosion issues. That's a big problem needing attention and money.
So the FRA's priority seems to be fixing Amtrak's existing house first.
Yeah, that seems to be the focus, yes. Addressing those immediate pressing issues within the current network.
It's interesting, though. Wasn't the previous administration looking at this differently? Weren't there talks about federal loans or more grants for this Texas project?
There were, yeah. Considerations for large government-backed loans and potentially more grants to get Amtrak started on construction activities for this line.
Which would have meant what for the risk?
It would have meant placing pretty much the entire financial risk of this $40 billion plus project squarely onto the American taxpayer.
That's a very different philosophy compared to private sector investment, where they take the risk, right?
Fundamentally different, yes. It really highlights that ongoing debate about how much the government should be involved in funding these huge infrastructure projects versus relying on private capital.
Did anyone else from the FRA comment besides Secretary Duffy?
Yes, the FRA Chief Counsel, Kyle Fields, also made a statement. He acknowledged that, connecting Dallas and Houston by rail is still an exciting idea.
So they see the potential.
They do. He framed it as something positive for the region, potentially. But the key point he made was that Amtrak and the FRA currently share the view that federalizing this specific Texas Central proposal isn't the right way to use taxpayer money right now.
But they haven't shut the door completely on new rail projects?
No, not at all. They made a point of saying the FRA still has various programs available, programs that can help develop new rail corridors, potentially even high-speed ones.
So future projects aren't off the table.
Exactly. They're signaling they'll keep working with stakeholders on other, perhaps more cost-effective rail opportunities. And importantly, that $60 million or so remaining from the canceled grant isn't just disappearing.
Where does it go?
It can be reallocated, put towards other projects that support safe, efficient, reliable rail transport somewhere else.
Okay, so that's the government side. What about the reaction from the private company actually behind this project, Texas Central? Specifically, their lead investor, Klein Heinz Capital Partners.
Right, their reaction was, well, a bit surprising, actually.
So,
They described the decision as overall good news.
good news. Losing a $64 million grant. How is that good news?
Well, their reasoning seems to echo Secretary Duffy's point about private leadership. Klein stated they agree the project should be privately led.
Ah, okay, so they're leaning into that narrative.
Seems like it. They said they're proud to advance it privately and even claimed the project is, quote, ready to dig.
Ready to dig. We'll come back to that. They also talked about jobs and economic growth.
Yes, they emphasize the potential for significant job creation and economic benefits for Texas if it goes ahead privately. It suggests they either have other funding lined up or they believe going private is better long term.
Interesting stance. What about other voices, like rail advocacy groups in Texas?
Peter Lakoti, who leads Texas Rail Advocates, also sounded somewhat optimistic. He hopes the project can still proceed without the federal money.
Hopes it can proceed, but could it? Did he think the private sector could handle it alone?
That's where it gets a bit more cautious. When asked directly if the private sector could pull it off entirely on its own, his answer was probably.
Probably. That doesn't sound entirely convinced.
No, it doesn't. And he added that help from other sources might still be needed. It definitely sounds less certain than the investor statement.
It reflects the massive challenge of privately funding something this big, doesn't it?
Absolutely. $40 billion is a staggering amount for private financing alone, especially for infrastructure with such long return horizons. Lakoti's hesitation likely reflects that reality.
Let's step back for a moment. This project isn't new, is it? It has quite a history.
Oh, a long history. The initial concept goes way back to 2009.
And the goal was always that super fast connection between Dallas and Houston.
Yes, the big selling point was transporting passengers between Texas's two largest cities in just 90 minutes. A real game changer for travel in the state if it happened.
But it's faced a lot of headwinds over the years.
A lot. Significant resistance from landowners whose property is on the proposed route. That's been a major battle.
And political opposition, too.
Yes, state lawmakers have also attempted to block it at various points. And then there's the cost.
Which just kept going up.
Dramatically. Started around $12 billion, then estimates rose past $30 billion, and now, like we said, the DOT's figure is over $40 billion. That kind of escalation makes any project much harder.
And didn't you mention the investor said it was ready to dig? That seems optimistic given another major issue, the land.
Right, that's a huge point. Acquiring the actual land needed for the rail line has been incredibly difficult and slow.
How much have they actually secured?
Reports suggest only about 25%, just a quarter of the land needed for the route has actually been purchased so far.
Only 25% after all this time. That sounds like a massive obstacle remaining, even if they have funding.
It is. Land acquisition is notoriously complex for big infrastructure, especially crossing private land. Having only 25% secured really raises questions about how ready to dig the project truly is, and the timelines involved moving forward, even under this new private-led approach.
So it looks like the Dallas-Houston high-speed rail project is now set to try and proceed purely under private leadership without that federal grant money. Definitely a challenging path ahead.
It certainly is. A major project facing some very significant financial and logistical hurdles.
We'll definitely keep following the story to see how this plays out. It's been a long saga already, and it seems far from over.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us for this breakdown.
And thank you for listening. If you found this analysis insightful, please do consider liking and subscribing. It helps others find the discussion.
We appreciate you tuning in.